something else that affects you and me and everybody else. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni is demanding Sanral reverse its decision not to take further legal action against e-toll defaulters for now. Now, many are celebrating the roads agency's announcement. In his budget speech, Mboweni said motorists should get used to the user pay principle. Let's get some confirmation, some reaction, some idea of what's going on from Organisation Undoing Tax Abuse. That's Outer CEO Wayne Duvenage. Wayne, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not sure how we're supposed to feel about this. I'm a bit confused as to what's happening at the moment. Do you understand what's happening at the moment?
We're trying to make sense of it all, but it does make a mockery of what's going on in government. I think you have this inter-government department ping-pong around decisions that's trying to be taken on the e-toll matter. First of all, the scheme is defunct. As a user pay scheme, it has never worked, from 40% compliance in 6 months now down to 25% compliance. So what you have is, I think, electioneering that is coming to the fore. The kitchen was getting extremely hot for Sanral and government with all these summonses, default judgments, blacklisting. And the message was very clear, I think, from the top. Certainly Sanral would not have taken that decision to halt with its chasing of debt without the Minister of Transport agreeing to that, and possibly even the President, which they indicated. So it was a good decision, and signalling the end is near for e-tolls. And then Tito Mboweni throws a cat amongst the pigeons and says, no, reverse that decision one day later. It really is strange.
Which also brings then, if we're saying that this is electioneering and this is about the ANC, then why would you have Tito Mboweni, I mean, you know, coming in to say, it's basically going against what his fellow party members have to say,
well,
what his own government is saying. And what do we make of that then?
I think it explains or gives context to the complexity of this matter. Now remember, there's a test case in process, and what we would like to get clarity from Sanral before Tito Mboweni came along was, what do you mean by suspending the debt chasing? Because the courts don't listen to that. Court processes aren't suspended. There's 20 days you have to respond to summonses. People were still getting summonses this week. They have to be responded to. Supporters were coming to us with those summonses. And remember as well, we're in this advanced stage of this test case on the lawfulness of e-tolls, which has to still be heard in court. We would like that to happen, and now this case becomes jeopardized. And I think what's happening here is that by Sanral not chasing their debt, it starts to jeopardize their test case, because one of the arguments in their test case is this fiscal Armageddon argument that if we don't settle these debts, then we have a problem because we could default on the bonds. Well, that's not necessarily the case, but it's their argument, and by Sanral acting in the way they are, they're jeopardizing that case. So we think maybe Tito Mboweni has got a message from their lawyers to say, no, please try and reverse that decision quickly, because we do know that the legal team was caught by surprise on this matter. They didn't even know that this was going to happen. So it really does send a clear message. It's a joke. It's a farce. E-tolls has failed. We need to find the alternative. There are alternatives. And move on with life, because 5 years on, the scheme will never work. And
well, I saw a comment at some point, was it yesterday, somebody saying, well, if they've managed so far, saying after saying that we desperately need this money, we have to pay back, but somehow you've managed. How have you managed without people paying?
Well, exactly. What they have done is, really the collections that they're getting from the e-tolls barely covers the collection costs at this stage. So government has allocated through Treasury the grants to Sanral, and that's what we've said all along. Taxpayers' funds need to be used to fund social infrastructure, of which urban freeways are. These are the roads you and I take daily. They're not long-distance tolls that we encounter on trips to Durban and Mpumalanga and so forth. So, yes, if Tito Mboweni has, and Treasury has recently granted them increased revenues from the fuel levy, which feeds into Treasury's coffers. So we believe that is the solution. It's not difficult. It's 2 billion rand, now possibly 3 billion rand with all the interest that's piled up. And it's minute in the greater scheme of things when you look at SABC, SAA, Eskom and so forth.
To give money. Well, what's interesting for me is the for now in that statement, that this is the for now, and what are we to expect that come the 9th of May, that it will be reversed?
Well, it could be at any time, and it seems like Tito Mboweni wants it reversed sooner rather than later. So it's a case of let's wait and see.
And who would make that decision? Would it be where would that come?
I think ultimately the president's going to have to make that decision, and he has already signalled in the past and still signalling that they are looking at alternatives, and they have to find alternatives because they can't flog the dead horse anymore. And we're willing to work with government to talk about those alternatives. We know that infrastructure doesn't fall out of the sky.
Yeah.
We know that good roads have to be built, and Sanral does build good roads, by the way. They've just got this horribly wrong. They've waited too long.
It was a
interest
disaster.
is piling up, and let's work together and fix it.
Oh, can you just imagine the angry phone calls between Tito Mboweni and Cyril Ramaphosa? Already the Deputy President is not happy with Tito Mboweni, so he's not going to have a good weekend. No.